If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, broadcasting live every Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central from Panama City Beach, Florida, home of the world's most beautiful beaches. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining me on my weekly broadcast. Every week, I'll feature some of the best instructors, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs in the golf business today. I begin with a great discussion on Coach's Corner, followed by an insightful interview with my special guest. So let's get started by introducing tonight's Coach's Corner panel. All right, everybody. Thank you again for joining me tonight here on Golf Talk Live. And very, very excited. This is the first official full broadcast, if you will, of the season. We've done a few shows here leading up to tonight, minus the Coach's Corner panel. And as I mentioned last week, we're back with the Coach's Corner panel beginning this week and until the end of the season. So I'm very, very excited. And I got a great panel to start things off. Two great gentlemen, Brian Dobby and Bill Abrams, are going to be joining me here on the first Coach's Corner panel of 2019. And I'll bring the guys out here in just a minute. But let me just mention a few other things. Later in the broadcast, of course, I'm going to be joined by my good friend and special guest, Byron Casper. He's a professional golfer and member of the International PGA, as well as the co-founder of the Billy Casper Golf Schools. And he's going to be joining me here a little bit later on. And very, very excited to have him on this show tonight as well. Also, another quick announcement, again, before I bring the guys out. Golfswing.com, who sponsored the Coach's Corner panel last year towards the end, is here again this season sponsoring the Coach's Corner panel segment. Very, very excited about that. Let me tell you a little bit about them. And a little bit later on, I'm going to play a short audio clip telling a little bit more detail of some of the things that they do. But Golfswing.com, with its cutting-edge technology, have teamed up alongside some of the best golf instructors, coaches, and swing gurus in the business. Today, together they have created one of the best video teaching and training online platforms in golf. So if you're ready to break 100, 90, 80, or even 70, then you want to join their online video academy and learn from some of the best. In addition to sponsoring the Coach's Corner segment every week, I'll be posting a different golf instructional video tip featuring some of their top golf instructors. So you want to make sure you check out all of my social media platforms for that video a little bit later on. All right, as I mentioned, we're going to be starting off with Coach's Corner, and let me tell you a little bit about the guys. First up, of course, is Bill Abrams. He's a PGA professional and owner-director of instruction for the Golf Solutions Academy at Balmoral Woods in Crete, Illinois, as well as you can find him in the winter months down at the Grand Palms Resort in Pembroke Pine. Also on the show is joining him is Brian Dobby. He's a PGA teaching professional at the Montclair Golf Club in New Jersey. Brian has been a PGA member since '94 and a golf professional since '91. Teaching golf is a passion, of course, both the mechanical and physical side, and he's been teaching at Montclair Golf Club for the last several years, which, of course, is home to one of the outstanding junior programs that continues to grow each and every season. So, guys, welcome to the first Coach's Corner panel of 2019.
Ted, thanks for having us. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Well, I appreciate it. And Bill, as I mentioned to you off air, I know there was one other thing that you wanted to mention, something that you wanted to add to your accolades, if you will. So go ahead and let the folks know.
Yeah, I was selected as the Central Illinois PGA Teacher of the Year for 2018, following up with one in 2017. So, very humbled and thankful about that.
Well, perfect. And well-deserved, I can guarantee you and assure you of that. All right, guys, we're going to start out a little bit light for the first Coach's Corner panel of the year. Not going to get into too heavy, but I got a few different things that I want to talk about tonight. And the first one I want to talk about, and I did discuss this on a previous show a little bit in more detail, But I just want to do a little bit of a discussion with you guys tonight. Everybody that, whether you play on the professional tours or whether you're weekend warriors out there, probably noticed that there have been some rule changes for 2019, and there was about 20, as I recall. We're not going to get into all of them, of course. I want to talk about some of them. But guys, and Bill, I'm going to start with you first. They're always changing or modifying the rules each season, but this year they took it a little step further, and I think part of the reason, obviously, was they're trying to make golf a little bit more accessible and a little bit easier for some of our amateur players. So what do you think of some of the rule changes, and were there any that kind of surprised you that you've come across so far?
Well, Ted, and had opportunity to go through and work with some of my collegiate players and, going over these rule changes. The drop rule, I think, has become very, very awkward. And where the ball, it's
right.
Not just the situation of how to drop it, but where the ball must come to rest afterwards. It's really created a lot of confusion, as you can see on the PGA Tour as well. There's really not a good definition to it. Knee height, can that be as I'm kneeling down and holding my hand on my leg? Am I squatting at knee height? I think they left a little bit to be desired on that decision. On the flip side, with the flag stick in, having played a little bit of golf down here in South Florida and on some public facilities on busy days, I can tell you it has helped the speed of play when that flag stick stays in longer and longer on the green.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And let me just, for those of you tuning in that may be not familiar with the first rule that he was talking about, and I'm just going to read you a little bit of what the previous rule was and then what the current rule is, just so everybody is sort of up to speed on that. The category was undertaking relief, and obviously subcategory was dropping procedure. In other words, how to drop a ball. Under the previous rule, you would stand erect, holding the ball at shoulder height and arms length, and then, of course, drop the ball. The new rule, as Bill, as you pointed out, that the ball must be dropped straight down from knee height, the height of a player's knee when in a standing position, which is a little bit awkward because it's not very clear, whether you're to sort of squat down a little bit or whether you sort of stand and just, put your arm down. So there was a lot of confusion with that. And to me, I don't really see how it's helping or changing, making it better for anybody. And I think there's been some confusion with that for sure. And then also, as you mentioned about leaving the pin in, I think that one, I've always kind of thought that was a good rule to change, and they've obviously done it. And I think you're going to see some benefits down the road. Brian, what about you? What about your thoughts on some of the rule changes? What has been some of the feedback, if any, that you've gotten so far from some of, I know you're up in the Northeast there and still doing a little snow shoveling, unfortunately. I wish you were down here with us, but you're not. What's been some of the conversations that you've had or been hearing about some of the rules changes?
Well, up here since, Ted, starting off, thanks for having me on the show again. Really appreciate it. Ted, as you know, we're in the middle of a cold winter up here with a lot of snow, so we really haven't had a chance to get on the course and implement these new rules. But from what I'm hearing is, the trying to speed the game up with some of the rules is a big concern for everybody up here. And, I think having the lost ball rule down to 3 minutes, that's going to impact people. I think that's going to take an adjustment for people because 3 minutes isn't really a long time, and I think we're all kind of programmed to look a little bit longer, that 5 minute, that rule. So that's going to be an adjustment for everybody up here. And I think the flag stick, I think that could be a positive thing up here because the first thing I thought of is a fast 3 foot down hill putt at Montclair Golf Club. I'm leaving that pin in, and I'm just aiming for that pin.
Right.
And I think I could probably do better, by catching that pin a little bit. So that's going to be interesting and fun too. It's just a new element to the game. Should I leave it in or should I take it out? So I think that's going to be interesting. And then the other rule I think is going to be interesting is moving loose impediments in bunkers and
right.
stuff like that. That's something we're not used to doing, going into a bunker and removing anything. So I think there's going to be a slight adjustment period for people to when they get into these situations. What do they do? And then I think, once they do it enough and realize they're not breaking a rule here anymore, I think it's going to flow nicely. And I understand the changes. It's to speed the game up and also to make the rules more easier for people to understand. And I think that's going to help the game. Definitely.
Yeah, I think they've obviously got to keep modifying and changing the games. I think you're exactly right, though, Brian. I think that one that's going to cause a little bit is obviously looking for a lost ball. Originally was 5 minutes, now it's down to 3 minutes. The pros, I think it's not going to be really as big of an issue. Because there's so many eyes out there to usually track where the ball has gone, so it gives them a little bit. But
sure.
Your weekend warriors as an example, they're playing those Pro V1s and they're not cheap, and so I can see a few of them, spending more than 5 minutes. In fact, I know for a fact. So there's obviously pros and cons to it. I want to get both of your feedback, though, if you can, because I've been seeing a lot of the articles that are coming out, and I take it with a grain of salt because I know how a lot of times the media likes to hype things up. But there have been a lot of, almost on a weekly basis, of various pros. Of course, there was, Sergio and some others that have come out about some of the different rules and things like that, and some controversy and again, a lot of hype. So Bill, what are your thoughts about some of that? I mean, the players should know, coming into this, new season, they should already know what the new rules are. There really shouldn't be any question. But there's been a little bit of, a negative vibe, if you will, out on the PGA Tour particularly. What are your thoughts there as far as the players are concerned?
Ted, are you asking me that or Bill?
I'm sorry. That was Bill. I'm sorry. I thought I said Bill.
Yeah.
And I think Bill had dropped off. Maybe that's... Yeah, here he is. I'm sorry.
Are you there?
Bill
Am I here?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You got me?
Yeah, you're back. I'm sorry. I didn't notice that you dropped off. My apologies.
Yeah. No,
so let me
mute. Okay, no.
Okay, let me rephrase or let me ask the question again, because obviously I guess you had dropped off temporarily. We were talking about the rule changes and things like that, and one of the statements I had made was, how a lot of the players on tour, I'm seeing a lot of articles and stuff coming through the media about how the players are reacting and handling some of the rules changes. Some of them are not too happy with some of the things. Some of them have been, caught in certain circumstances that have not benefited the player. How do you think the rules have been received on the PGA Tour, as an example?
And I think from the aspect of them, they've done it this way forever. And, you have to change things. I take the drops again, because that's the biggest thing that we're going to see. The dropping zone and where you're supposed to have the ball hit and stop compared to where it was before is a real situation. I can understand their frustration, but at the same point, I also take the side of, if you take your financials to a CPA, they know the tax rules and the tax laws.
Right.
These guys are doing this for a living. They should have an understanding of it. And I can tell you, when I played basketball in college, we'd have officials come in to an early season, a couple of the Saturday practices when we were doing scrimmages, and talk about the new rules and the emphasis. And I think that's one of the things, being an independent contractor, I don't think a lot of times that they take a lot of grace and go ahead and do that. They just rely upon the rules officials, and when things have changed, they get a little grumpy about it.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of information that the players and their caddies, of course, have to take in any given round, and now they've got to, it's, we're not like we're talking about one or two rule changes. I mean, there were, I believe, 20 in total. Some of them, sort of overlap one another, if you will, a little bit. There were a few there about the bunkers and that. So, that's not as big of an issue, but it is a lot to have to adjust. But then again, too, they had months from when it was announced that the rule changes, when they'd be taking effect. So it's really up to the players and, of course, their caddies to sort of brush up and get up to speed with that. So as I understand, sometimes the rules, and this has always happened, guys. Brian, I'm sure you can attest to this from watching over the years. Sometimes the rules work, or the rules work in your favor, and sometimes you get trapped into one of the rules for whatever reason, whether it be removing a loose impediment, or spending more than the required time to find your ball, whatever the case may be. The rules are there for a reason, as Bill had pointed out. What are your thoughts, Brian, on how the PGA players have been handling it so far in the season? Is it typical from what you're seeing, do you think? Is this pretty normal, or do you think some of them are making a little bit bigger issue of it than what needs be?
I really think right now there's always going to be an adjustment period because it's new, but I just think the players are making a little bit too big of a deal out of it, and the reason being is right in the rule book it says the player's responsibility. So they're playing a game.
Yeah.
They've been playing it long enough. They knew the rules were changing, and they're also in a position out there where there's a lot of people that can help them. So they've actually got it a little easier than the general public because there's people watching them play, and there's rules officials all over. So any gripes they have, I'm sure it comes from frustration of it happening. But they should be aware of it by now, and this is what they do for a living, and they should know how to proceed out there. So
yeah, and I think as far as the media
the player
goes,
has a responsibility in this game. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead,
you're exactly right. And no, that's okay. And all I was going to add was that as far as the media is concerned, they're looking for an angle, if you will. So if a player let's say is out there and they're going through one of the rules, if you will, and grumbles a little bit, that's going to make headline news the next day. So, you have to take it, and that's why I said you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. I want to ask one more question about rules to both of you and get your thoughts and opinion on this. Do you think, though, that, obviously there are general rules that should apply to everybody, but do you think some of the rules maybe should adhere more to on the professional level and others that maybe to the amateur level? And the reason why I say that is, I like the fact, keeping the flag in, I think is great. Certainly going to help a lot of amateurs that may be a little, dicey with their putting, might help save a few from rolling off the green, or some of those slippery downhills like you talked about, Brian. And I'm going to go to you first on this. But do you think that maybe as far as speeding it up, is it really helping or going to help the amateurs as much as it would the professionals, a lot of the rule changes?
I think it should speed it up somewhat. I'm really a firm believer from what I see up here is I think the game is slowed down by what we see on TV. When a twosome on the PGA Tour takes 4.5 hours to play or whatever, and the amount of time they take to hit certain shots, especially around the greens, I just think that feeds into our players when they start to play in tournaments and stuff and slows them down. I'm a firm proponent of, if caddies weren't allowed on the greens up here, the game would speed up by 20 minutes around, just by all the green reading going on. And then I think continuous putting would definitely speed up the game. And I know that's hard sometimes, walking in people's line, but when you're on a green, this is where players get the slowest. And I think it stems from watching golf on TV, and we tend to do what the pros do as a model. And I sure hope the game speeds up, Ted, because there's a lot of talk on how long it takes to play 9 holes now, how long it takes to play 18 holes, and the game is getting long, and to get it going faster, I'm in favor for it, because when I was a kid growing up, caddying at a club, it was embarrassing if you played in 4 hours or more, so there was a stigma about that. Now it's almost 5 hours is a common round. What happened? It's still 18 holes, and you're still playing in front of 4 people. What happened to the game? It slowed down tremendously.
Yeah, and most people are hitting the ball even farther, so that should help. But I think there's a number of factors that fall into that. Bill, I want to ask you something. You're certainly welcome to answer the same question about whether or not you feel it's more beneficial to the pros, some of the rule changes, or the amateurs. But I also wanted to ask you to add this into it as well. I don't see a lot of, now obviously again it's early in the season, but I don't see as much negative impact on the ladies tour. Why do you think that is?
That's a very good question, because with the situations with the caddies coming behind the player, they had done that historically a lot more than the men, and
right.
I think that's where we're seeing the hiccups come in, because they knew it's that's ground we don't stand on anymore. Versus with the men,
right.
They did it so seldom that it's they're just kind of leaning in there to give them a little pep talk at the end, moving out. But it's a rules violation. I think that's one of the biggest differences with the men to the ladies. But overall, I think the speed of play is something that needs to be really addressed, and it still wasn't done in the rules. I mean, again, 3 minutes,
yep.
leaving the flag stick in. We've done something at Balmoral Woods. We host a very big amateur event every year, the Will County Amateur. We get some guys from around the country that are fabulous players. Tony Romo's played in it and won it in the past. We instituted a policy where we warn the players on the first tee. Once they fall out of place or miss the criteria of being two shots out of position on a par 4, or they're on the tee and the other group is on the green, they're subject to individual timing, not group timing, individual timing. And I think that's one of the biggest keys, that they have to grow a little more bravery in all associations and go ahead and do something like this. Warn the players on the first tee. You have checkpoints with the clocks. If you leave at 8 o'clock in the morning as your tee time, you get to the end of the 4th green, that clock should still say 8 on the staggered clock. And I don't think that, there's been a hard enough line taken on that pace of play. And then that's the culture. It just runs down through the ranks. And, even at the private clubs, I had the fortune of, with a good old high school friend, to play at Mayaku Lakes in Wellington, which was Jack Nicklaus's original design, one of the hardest golf courses in the country. The members are expected to play in 3.5 or 3:45. It's a lot of it is the culture too. When you're playing at a public course and you're seeing, J.B. Holmes plumb bob a putt from a foot. Come on, I mean, we have to, you have to. Really, I think there has to be a hard stand on this pace of play, because I think for the most part, they're trying to not humiliate the one person that's doing it and basically drag everybody into the mix in the whole group.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Really, obviously, the rules are there to keep everybody, honest and playing with integrity. But it's also designed, as both of you have mentioned, really to foster a speedier play, if you will, and to sort of help alleviate some of the slow play issues. I don't want to stay much longer on the rules side of things, but maybe some of the fines and maybe some of the penalties, particularly when it comes to slow play, need to be a little bit more stringent, I think, because it is, the professionals, that we understand, they're playing for a lot of money as opposed to many of the amateurs out there. But at the same time, they're there really setting an example of the sport. They're supposed to be the elite of the sport, whether male or female. And if they're, sort of, like you said, plumb bobbing from a foot, that's not really setting a great example. Because I see a lot of people mimic, many weekend golfers out there mimicking what they see on TV, and they're just spending a lot of time. And meanwhile, you've got a group in the fairway and a group back on the tee waiting to move, and they can't because everybody's, doing their stick on the green.
Quite certainly, you're spot on.
Yeah, and we've all fallen into that trap. And you're out there to see the flowers and smell the fresh air and hear the birds, but at the same time, I've seen many of people derail a good round of golf because they get into 2 or 3 holes where everything's backed up. and suddenly it's just coming to a screeching halt, and then the frustration level, the anxiety starts to pick up, and you just sort of get off that rhythm. And it's very, very difficult to do. So in closing on that topic, let me just remind everybody tuning in tonight, obviously there have been some rule changes, and if you're not aware of them, as I said, I think there's about 20 overall for 2019. You want to pick up a copy of the USGA's rule book to make sure that you're current and up to date with the rules for this season. So make sure you get yourself a copy, and you can do that in a number of great ways. All right, guys, I want to move on to talk a little bit about sort of the mental side of things, mental mastery. I talked about this not too long ago on a program as well, but I wanted to bring this into discussion with the panels. And Brian, I'm going to talk to you first because I know you deal with a lot of member golfers up there at your course. And each season as you come in and you start to work with people again, you want to kind of get an understanding, if you will, of their sort of current state of mind. They've been shoveling snow for a little while, so they're going to be a little bit grumpy coming out, I'm sure. But you obviously want them to come out. So take us through, if you will, just a few moments when you're starting out with some of your students at the beginning of the season. The spring thaws come out, if you will, and you want to get them in that right frame of mind. Talk us through some of the discussion you're going to have with them when they come out the season.
Sure, Ted. I think the main thing that I try to get to through to my students is, number one, keep it simple. Okay, if we haven't been playing all winter, or if we haven't had a club in our hand, we tend to get too much information going when we come out. And, I just want to make sure they have a couple good fundamentals, good grip setup and aim and stuff like that. But really keep it simple, have one swing thought going, and try to stay in the process of hitting a good shot instead of, a lot of our members up here, amateurs, usually focus on the past and the future. Mm-hmm. Stay in the moment. How do you hit a good shot? Try to hit it solid, and that would be a good swing thought. Just good rhythm, good balance starting out in the spring, and try to catch the middle of the club face. Just by doing that, you're probably going to hit a pretty good shot. Don't overthink it, and try to keep this game simple. That's part of my teaching philosophy. I think a lot of my students they read too much, they see too much on the Golf Channel. They're trying this, they're trying that, and you know what? Right. A lot of those things don't apply to their game, and I think it bogs them down. So I just try to give them a couple thoughts, keep it simple, good contact, and that's a great way to start in the spring up here, Ted. That's my plan for my students.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice. Pardon me. I think that when you've had sort of that layover, if you will, for a few months. Obviously, some folks don't have the benefits of an indoor facility to go to, which, in my opinion, is still no excuse. There's lots of great things that you can be doing and working on in your very own home to sort of get tuned up for the season. You don't necessarily have to be hitting golf balls, but there's some things that you can do working on your grip and other things. But for those that maybe didn't take advantage and are coming out, fresh from the gate, if you will, that's some great advice. You want to just sort of come out and just, be relaxed and don't worry about what happened last season. This is a brand new season. Let's, get excited about it. Let's start things off and maybe take some refresher lessons to kind of get things back on track. Bill, what about you? I know you're down here in Florida, so you're working, both ends of the spectrum. You're going to be up north in May, as I recall, back home up that way. When the summer starts to take root. But right now you're working. So you're getting golfers that maybe are coming down to Florida, let's say, that have the benefit of kind of playing all year round. How do you, get them in that, what's their current state of mind, and how do you transition them, maybe if they've come down for the season, for the winter season, and you want to really get them off to a good start so they can enjoy some winter golf down here in Florida?
That's a great.
That was Bill. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Got me now, Ted?
Yep, I got you. Go ahead.
Am I there? Okay, good. Sorry, the mute wasn't working right. No, that's a super question. I feel the best way for a coach to really find out what's going on is you got to play a few holes with a player as they're transitioning seasons. Go out to play 2 or 3 or 4 holes and really see where their mind is. I think one of the things as a player we can do consistently, really the only 2 things we can do consistently as players is stand up to the golf ball correctly, consistently, and think consistently. And what I end up finding is those 2 end up being a vicious cycle sometimes. You change the way you're standing up, that changes the way you think differently, you stand up to the ball differently, and then it just creates a death spiral for a lot of players. So what I like to do is take them on the course, or even in a practice area and hit some shots. They hit a good one. What was your thought there? What are you thinking about? Where's your focus? And really, utilize what's going on in their brain, because their interpretation of things is so much different sometimes from what we're seeing. And that's our challenge as a coach, to be able to communicate to the player to the way they perceive things. And I feel by taking them on the golf course, you can really, cut to the chase here, and you see somebody just stripe a drive down the middle and hit it as good as they ever have. Okay, what was your thought on that? How'd you prepare for that? What was your thought? And utilize that as a good building block so they can come back to that as time goes on. And I've had so many situations in my life with, even some mini tour players I've worked with, where we're working on one focus and one thought over the ball and a commitment, hit great iron shots, 6 straight holes, and then on the 7th they hit a stinker. And I say, well, what was your thought? Well, I changed it. Oh, well, why'd you change? And that's one of the things that we fall into. And the amateur players so deeply fall into this. They want a little bit better. Something wasn't quite right. We have to find that consistent thing that the consistent thought for their setup and the consistent thought for their swing.
Yeah, well said. And that's a great point. We see a lot of golfers, again, especially our amateur golfers, get out there and, they'll hit some great shots consecutively, or they'll play even a couple of good holes. And then all of a sudden, they want to tweak something, mid-round or early in the round, and the next thing you know, the wheels sort of fall off the bus, and then they can't understand. And that adds to some of the anxieties, as I mentioned earlier, out on the golf course as well. Brian, I want to ask you this. We talk about the pros, and everybody obviously watches a lot of the events, and we certainly want to not necessarily mimic what's going on out there, because obviously everybody's unique, but there might be some good mental cues that from some of the better higher level players that maybe we could take take notice of, and not necessarily incorporate in our own mental strategy, but maybe help us to stay better focused. So by watching some of these players, how can we learn from their mental profiles of some of the higher performing golfers on tour?
Ted, I think that the first thing that comes to my mind is their routine. If you watch these guys on tour and the girls on tour, their routines are so precise, and they do the thing over and over. And I think the routine is what gets them through the nerve-wracking shots they have to hit out there. They stick to the routine, and for the average golfers, a lot of them don't have a routine, and that's what they should be watching when they watch on TV or mimic. Find your routine, stick to it, and I think so many good things can come out of that, because it almost becomes a reflex action. But if you're taking 10 seconds to hit one shot and then 15 seconds to hit another, and you're never going to find that rhythm to your game. So if I would mimic anything watching the pros on TV, is watch how they approach each shot, and they're doing the same thing each time. They look at the target,
Yep.
picture the ball flight, and their mannerisms the same. But find your routine, and that'll just carry you through your round of golf. It's something you don't read about much in magazines and talk about, but finding a routine is critical for good play, I think. And watch these guys. They do the same thing every time. Putting, chipping, It doesn't matter the shot. They're into their routine.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Brian, and you're exactly right. When we watch a lot of the professionals, over the weekends, particularly, and especially those that are in the hunt, if you will, their pre-shot routines are very, very consistent. And if you want to see a player who is struggling on the golf course, watch when they get out of their routine. That's usually a good sign that a player is struggling, because most of the better players, when they may not necessarily win the tournament, they may not even be in the top 10, but they're playing their best. I mean, I've seen players that have shot low 60s that didn't win the tournament, and I've seen other players that their final round was maybe a 70 even, but because their previous rounds were low enough and obviously they were staying focused, they were able to maintain the lead that they needed in order to close it out on Sunday. And that is because they maintain that routine and that consistency throughout their round, and that's something that a lot of amateurs lack. I'm sure we can all attest to that. Bill, and Ted, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Ted, one more thing on that. I'm sure you've noticed it, Bill, too. I've when I'm watching golf on TV and you see a player being televised a lot, I've seen this over and over where I see his routine and it just catches my eye. He just took 2 more seconds or something, and he said he's not gonna hit it good, and you can pick up on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've seen it.
Bill, I want to ask you. No, that's a great point, Brian. Bill, I want to touch on that a little bit more, because that's something that Brian's talking about that is very, very noticeable. Not so much. Obviously we can count the seconds and whatnot, but what you will often see the better players do is, as they go through their routine, if for some reason they get out of that routine, whether it's a distraction from the crowds or something else that's gone on, or they've lost momentarily that focus, they will regroup and go through that entire routine again. That's something. How do we convey that, Bill, to some of our students? That obviously, again, we want to be mindful of slow play, but obviously players, they're not as focused. What can we say, or what can we do to help them guide that if they're not comfortable in that moment, how do they organize themselves to regroup?
One of the things that I offer, and I tell players this all the time, that once that shadow of a doubt comes in your mind, you're not going to have a chance to hit the shot in the way that you want to do it. So we simply, when that little hiccup happens, step back, tap the club, step up, and go again. The worst thing that any player, whether it's the number one player in the world professionally or the 38 handicap at the club, can say, something alters them. They have to brush their hair out of their eyes. They have a bee bothers them. Oh, it's okay, go ahead and hit. It'll be okay, go ahead and hit. That's the worst thing any player can ever say to themselves, because what they've done is they predispose themselves to an absolute disaster coming. And what we need to do with those players is, it's not going to take tons of time. With my elite players, we actually put the stopwatch on them from a set or a reference point to the time that they pull the club back. And the maximum amount of time from 6 feet behind the ball, as the girls at Vision 54 we would say the decision line, is about 10 seconds. From the time the feet are set, it's got to go back in 3.5 to 5 seconds. So what we do is we try to keep the players in this time to make it like a security blanket. And average players can learn from this. I would rather, with most people, especially type A personalities, I'd rather have their routine going snap, 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 moving fast, because once they try to slow down, that doesn't fit their personality so well, and then they start to get themselves into some awkward situations. So we really have to be cognizant of ourselves and mindful of ourselves to build the routine that fits our personality and the way we approach life and interpret things.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point as well. You're exactly right. The other thing, guys, too, and this really goes back to the first point, sort of understanding the current state of mind. Something, too, that, and obviously we're all human. We all, can be emotional at times when things are not going well outside of the golf course, whether it be something stressful at work that's going on, maybe some projects that you're working on that, need your full attention, and you're bringing that mindset to the golf course. Maybe something at home, maybe you've just, I hate to use this reference, but maybe you've had a disagreement at home with your spouse or partner, and you're now taking that to the golf course. So, Brian, this is something too, and obviously, we've got to be mindful and careful. We're not psychologists, but that's a big factor as well, is outside influences that we bring to the golf course with us. How do we sort of decompress and say to ourselves, okay, this is something that obviously has to be dealt with. It's important, but for the next couple of hours, I need to focus on the task at hand. That's a transition as well. How do we handle that transition with our players?
Well, I think one thing I like to do is change my pace. And when I get to the golf course, it's for tournament purposes, obviously. I like to walk a little slower, breathe a little, focus on my breathing and stuff. Kind of just slows me down and gets me into the moment a little bit. So I think focusing on your breathing really gets you into the moment, and just some breathing can clear your mind. If you bring outside distractions to the course, the golf ball doesn't know that. That's the main thing. I've kind of tricked myself into saying, the golf ball only knows that club face hitting it. So let me give that full attention for that 20 seconds to hit the golf ball. And then if I can't clear my mind, let me go back to that. But I think just slowing down your pace, focusing on your breathing will clear your mind and just say, you know what, let me try to have some fun here. I'm here at the course. I can start thinking about the other things later and try to enjoy the round and be with my friends or whatever and stuff like that. But definitely slowing down your pace and breathing is something I would recommend for people to do to kind of just get their thought process back into hitting the golf ball.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other great things out there. A big thing right now is yoga. Believe it or not, I mean, traditionally, most of us hit the gym and we'd unload some of that stress lifting weights and things like that. But as our good friend Catherine Roberts, who heads up Yoga for Golfers, will tell you that yoga has become a big component with a lot of not just golfers out there, and I'm talking about elite players, but even she works a lot with Major League Baseball and some of the other sports as well. They're starting to understand exactly what you're talking about, Brian, and able to use yoga to help accomplish that, to sort of bring that anxiety down and relaxation out in the golf course. That doesn't mean they're doing yoga poses out there, but they're doing that, pre-round or even post-round sometimes, just to help bring de-escalate some of that anxiety that we carry. It's a faster-paced world today than it used to be, and these are things that people are starting. So that's just one way, and there's obviously other things that you can research yourselves out there. Bill, I want to go to you. We talked about a pre-shot routine, but what about a post-shot routine? We've hit a good shot, or even if we've hit a bad shot, how do we handle the post-shot routine? What are some things that we need to sit in both scenarios? Give us a good shot and a bad shot. What do we take away from that after we've hit the shot?
It's pretty neat because the post-shot routine is a lot of players do not really consider this or think about it. They always talk about pre, but the post is equal or even maybe more so important than the pre. A couple things that we do if a player hits a poor shot, we can do some simple things as take your fingers and just wipe your brow and like you're throwing sweat away. Toss it away. Mm-hmm. I've actually had some players, this sounds kind of funny, like they flush the toilet. It's gone. I hate to say that, that way and sound that crazy, but you have to basically shut it off and be done with it. It's gone. And, with the post-shot routine, I think one of the things on a good shot is just when you strike it and you hold your pose for a second, just stand there, maybe with a little more weight on your front foot and look at the target for just a second longer. And 5 seconds after the shot, it's got to be done. We've got to be moving to the next one. If we start to get ourselves into, start to consternate and even a good shot, because I think that's one of the hardest things as players get better. It's not following up a bad shot with a good shot. It's following up a superior shot with something that's at least serviceable.
Right. Right, you're exactly right. And I think that you sort of hit it on the head. We obviously, it's important before we hit the shot to have a routine, but equally after the shot has been executed, we want to also have a routine as well. And I like some of the analogies, Bill, that you use, because and you can make up your own. It doesn't have to be necessarily what you said, but there has to be some way, because one of the problems that a lot of golfers have, especially our amateur golfers, and we've seen the odd pro over the years do it as well, is when they hit a bad shot, the anxiety level goes up, and sometimes, in some cases, anger comes out. We see them throwing a club or thumping a club down on the ground, and now they're going into their next shot or their next scenario with that anger sort of, not being really released. And there's a lot of, again, great techniques, whether, Brian, as you suggest, deep breathing, as you're walking to your next shot, sort of breathe it out, if you will. So there's a lot of good things. And that post-shot routine, in my opinion, I agree with both of you, I think is very, very important, and something that a lot of amateur golfers, need to incorporate into their everyday play. The last one I want to talk about, and this is really, I think, for the benefit of everybody, and that is really the ability to actively track your mentality and improvement over time. And obviously this sort of incorporates the physical side a little bit as well, but the importance of keeping track. And I think one of the things that, from the mental side, is when we're in that good zone, if you will, when we're making good shots and we're playing a good round, we need to be conscious and cognizant of how we're feeling and what we're thinking of in the moment, because that's something that we can use at a later date. We can sort of put it in our pocket. So talk a little bit about that, if you would, both of you. And Brian, I'm going to go with you first, and then Bill. Sort of charting the course. We keep stats for our playing, whether it be putts on the green or whether it be chips and so forth, greens and regulation, all of that kind of stuff. But what about charting our mental course, if you will, as we go through our rounds? What's the importance of that, and how can we sort of tap into that sort of positive energy? Brian?
Sure, Ted, that's a great question. Here's what I teach my students. Stop, start, continue. Okay, so after every round, I say to myself, what do I need to stop doing to get better or reach my goals? What do I need to continue to do to reach my goals? And what do I need to start doing to reach my goals? And if I answer those questions, pretty soon it could be a typical round. Maybe my bunker game was off. I got to start paying attention to my bunker game and take a lesson, something like that. Or I really liked my pre-shot routine. I like the way I was swinging today. I want to continue with that thought. And then stop would be, I got to stop staying up late at night before a round of golf. I need more sleep or something. And pretty soon you're going to see a pattern after a few rounds of, I'm going to have more continues and more starts and a lot less stops. After you're going to see a little a pattern, and I tell all my students, keep a little journal of this, and you're going to see what were you doing when you played well. How did you prepare yourself, and what happened when you played bad? Was it a bad round because you hit it bad, or was it a bad round because you were up all night partying or having a good time and you didn't get any sleep and you rushed to the golf course and you didn't warm up properly? And all those things add into a good or a bad round. And I'm a firm believer if, writing things down, having a journal, you're going to see a pattern, and that pattern can help you be a better player. But you have to write it down. And answering those three questions have always worked for me, and I've always teach that to my students. Stop, start, continue. It works.
Great. Yeah, some great advice, Brian. Thank you for that. Bill, what about you? Again, the sort of the same scenario. We get a lot of players out there that, maybe they've played a good round. What can they take away from that? And what can they take away even when they don't play a good round that they can use to help prepare them for the next time?
I think one of the biggest things that I see with players at all levels, whether it's an elite junior or it's a club player, is the next shot is predicated by what they did on the previous shot. They leave the putt short, so the next one they blow it long. And I think that's one of the things that the biggest focus you have to get back to is what your intention is. Pay attention to your intention. Keep that spot on, because what happens a lot of times with players, you hit it short. You hit it short. So what happens the next time? You blow it 6 feet long. Or you're afraid of hitting the ball long, so you ended up hitting it 20 feet short. So I think that's one of the biggest areas. And going along with what Brian said, just kind of seeing the patterns and where you're thinking. And I found with a lot of players, what happens is it's one critical shot or one critical decision that they make in the round that either makes the round or it blows it up, because of the fact that they didn't react to the situation correctly. They hit a poor shot and then react incorrectly, trying to fix that, as opposed to getting back to the things that they're trying to do and paying attention to what they're intending on doing.
You're exactly right. And I just want to add to something that Brian had said a moment ago about, keeping some sort of a journal. I mentioned earlier on in the segment that, even though for some that may be up in the Northeast or even Northwest, that maybe don't have the benefit of getting out there and hitting shots, by keeping those notes throughout the year when you are playing, that's something, if you want to do something in the off season, if you've got a few months that you can't get out there, review some of those notes, review that journal, look at some of the things, not just everybody focuses on the physical, well, I got to hit the ball great. And yes, that's important, but it's how you prepare yourself mentally coming out to that season. If you've had a bad season, then focus on some of the things that you need to work on for next season. And when you get out there on the golf course and you get connected with your coach or your teacher professional again, you've already got some good momentum going and you've got some good things to be working on. The worst thing that you can do is sit there for 2 or 3 months or whatever it happens to be, doing absolutely nothing, and then coming out and saying, well, Bill, Brian, I want to play some good golf here. I have no idea what I need to do. You want to go there and you want to have some information. Yeah, you want to have some good information. And there's no excuse for any of you that listening out there tonight. If you do exactly what these guys are telling you to do, I guarantee you will become a better player. I'm all for, getting out there and getting some nice equipment, but I would rather you take time to, focus on the things that you need to improve on, take a look at some of the things that you've done well on, and analyze that stuff and get together with your professional and say, look, here are some points that I've been writing down throughout the season. Let's have a discussion about that. Then going out and spending $300 or $400 on a new driver, thinking that's going to be the next greatest thing to cure the problems that you have out in the golf course, because it's not going to happen. And I think the guys would agree with me on that. The equipment manufacturers may not.
1,000% sure. Absolutely.
But
you can create your own mindset. There's no doubt about it. You can create your own mindset. And, getting with a coach where you take your vulnerabilities and start to mask those or disguise them or get them to go away, but expounding upon the things that you do very well, I think that's one of the things we forget about. We're always trying to get rid of the things we do poorly as opposed to making the things we do really well stronger.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, we focus on the wrong.
Hey, Ted,
we focus on the wrong thing. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Ted, if I could add one thing to what you just said, you used the word prepare about 5 times in there, and I think the key word is: are you prepared to play golf? And what coaches know and what students need to understand is a good coach will prepare that player to play his best. And getting back to tour players, they are so prepared to play in their tournaments, meaning they know the places to hit them on the greens. They know the landing zones. They know where not to hit it. Their bodies are prepared. Their minds are prepared. They've prepared themselves to play these rounds of golf, and they've put so much preparation into it. And this is what I think the amateur golfers need to do more of. Most of them aren't prepared to play that round of golf, and it just snowballs after the first 3 or 4 holes. If they're not hitting it well and the score balloons, they're just done for the rest of the round. And were they really prepared to play that round? And sometimes the amateurs are thinking it must be my swing or how I'm hitting it. Well, maybe it isn't. Maybe you're like Bill said, the decision making out there might not be right, and that can cause the bad shot. So the more we can prepare our players, the better they're going to perform. I'm a true believer in that.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Well, exactly. And if you think about this from an employment standpoint, and even though I know that some of the listeners out there may be retired and aren't in it, gainfully employed right now, but if you think about that, when you had a presentation or something or a project at work, you had to prepare for it. You didn't just go and do it.
Sure.
I mean, and if you did, it usually wasn't very successful, and you probably got reprimanded at work. So it's the same thing applies in the golf course. It's not just a matter of hitting shots and warming up. That's one component. It's preparing yourself mentally and physically by exercising and keeping yourself healthy, getting proper rest, and some other things that we talked about earlier on, so that when you get out to the golf course, you're ready to attack that golf course and obviously have some fun in the process. So, guys, great discussion tonight. I really enjoyed that. It was a great way to start the season off. Really excited to continue the conversation throughout the season on Coach's Corner, and I want to thank both of you, Brian Dobby and Bill Abrams, for starting off the 2019 season with a great discussion. Very quickly, both of you, I'll go Bill this time first, and then Brian, let the folks know if they want to reach out.
Yeah, you can get me at BillAbramsGolf.com. That'll have my phone number, email, and everything there. It's just BillAbramsGolf.com. I'm available at Pembroke Pines, Florida, through the middle of April at Grand Palms Resort, and then in Chicago area at Balmoral Woods through the summer months.
Perfect. Brian?
For the listeners out there, you can reach me at briandobbypga@yahoo.com, or if you're in New Jersey, come to the beautiful Montclair Golf Club. Starting April 1st through November, I'll be up there teaching, and hopefully we get a nice, beautiful spring and some warm weather to get it going. But looking forward to it. And Ted, thanks for having me on the show. Always appreciate it. And Bill, have a great season. It was great being a guest with you.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. And Ted, we can't thank you enough for all you're doing and all your efforts to grow the game of golf and, give people definition to what really needs to happen in the game.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, and I thank you as always for giving your time and support throughout the year. It's hard to believe, but this is the 7th season for Golf Talk Live, so I'm very, very excited. It's going to be a great year. Got a lot of great things planned throughout the season and a lot of great guests. And I'm glad that you guys have come back again this season to be a part of the Coach's Corner. So, guys, have a great week, and I will see you next time here on the Coach's Corner panel.
Great.
Thanks
again,
Ted.
Have a
we'll
good
talk
night.
to you soon. Thanks, Brian. Be good. Have a great season.
Okay, Bill. Good night. Take care.
All right, that was the guys, Brian Dobby and Bill Abrams, to start off the Coach's Corner panel for 2019. And I want to thank again, obviously, golfswing.com for sponsoring that segment of the show. And as promised, I'm going to let you listen to a little clip that I have of golfswing.com to listen a little bit more how you can enjoy some of the great online videos in their online video academy. So take a listen.
Are you finally ready to improve your golf game? Golfswing.com is changing the way golfers learn online. With the largest collection of golf training programs and drills on the planet, Golfswing.com can help you improve every part of your game. Whether you want to gain more distance, hit it closer, or just sink more putts, Golfswing.com's staff of world-class coaches can help you gain the results you need. Watch unlimited videos on any device from anywhere in the world and start playing better, scoring lower, having more fun, and saving money. Get your fix on demand at Golfswing.com.
All right, as I said, that is the sponsor of the Coach's Corner panel, golfswing.com, a great bunch of guys there and some really top golf professionals as part of their online video academy. So go to, after the show, go to golfswing.com and check it out. It's very, very affordable. You can sign up for a monthly program, a subscription there, if you will, on golfswing.com and get access to literally thousands of great online video tips and lots of good information available there. So go to golfswing.com. Just a quick reminder, beginning next week on my other program, the Women of Golf Show, which, of course, my good friend, LPGA professional Cindy Miller and I co-host together every Tuesday morning here on the blogtalkradio.com network. We will be featuring the winner of the Sky Golf Championship, which is the first inaugural, if you will, tournament for Sky Golf, but also the first tournament on the Symetra Tour for this season. So we had a great young lady this past Tuesday, August Kim, who helped us sort of kick off the 2019 season. So we're very, very excited about that coming up on our Tuesday morning broadcast on the Women of Golf Show here on blogtalkradio.com network. So make sure you join me. Cindy will actually be mid-flight this Tuesday, so I'll be sort of holding the fort, if you will, on the Women of Golf for this coming Tuesday, but I will be hosting the winner of this weekend's Sky Golf Championship, which is the first tournament of the Symetra Tour. So make sure you tune in for that. My good friend is going to be joining me here in just a second, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him. We've actually known each other now for a number of years. I met him shortly after. Actually, I interviewed his father, the legendary Billy Casper, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but his son Byron Casper, who is also a professional golfer and a member of the International PGA, as well as the co-founder of the Billy Casper Golf Schools. He and I became acquainted and have enjoyed a friendship, if you will, for several years now, and I'm very, very excited and proud to have him back on the show. I love having him come on every season to see what's new and talk a little bit about golf and talk a little bit about his dad as well, because I know he enjoys that, reminiscing, if you will, some of Billy's glory days, if you will. So please help me welcome my very special guest this evening, Byron Casper. Good evening, Byron.
Good evening, Ted. How are you?
Doing well. Let me just first say, and I hate to throw you under the bus, but I know you were a little under the weather earlier. I hope you're feeling a little bit. Byron's nursing a little bit of a cold. He's been hopping around the country, doing some great things, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. And as most of you know, if you travel at all through the airlines or on the road for whatever reason, whether you're driving, that sure as guns you're going to pick something up. So when you come in contact with a lot of people over time. So Byron, I'm glad that you're feeling well enough to do the show tonight, and I appreciate you coming on.
You know what? Thank you very much. It really is nothing. I've got a secret remedy that that I know a lot of people use when it comes to keeping my immune system up, especially when it comes to traveling. Like you said, it's always fun to travel, but when you do it to the point of where you're on a plane every other week, at least, you have to be a little careful with the germs that are out there. So there you go. There's your health advice for the day.
Yeah. And but we still want you to go and visit your health practitioner, if you will, or your physician and your doctor. If you are feeling a little under the weather, don't take our advice for it, because we don't want anything coming back on us. So, but that is some good advice, though, Byron. All right, so let's talk about. I got some things that I do want to talk to you about specifically a little bit later, but I always like to catch up with you, because it's always we hadn't talked for a little while. I've been busy, you've been busy, hopping around here and there, and I always like to catch up with you because you've always got something interesting in the fire, if you will. So give us an update, if you will. Talk about some of the things that you've been working on, some of the things that you maybe started a little while back and where they're at now, and just sort of give us an update.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for that. I appreciate the opportunity to give you an update and let you know how things are going. We still have our golf school, Billy Casper Golf School, still going strong, and that's something that, as you know, Chad, we've spoken about before in previous broadcasts. That's very important to my heart, just because Dad and I started it. We had a lot of ideas that we wanted to make golf a little bit more accessible, get people good quality lessons, using a really fine mixture of technology as well as feel. And you and I have certainly spoken enough about the my teaching philosophy that I really truly
Right.
believe that in today's world, technology is really an asset to just anything we're doing, and that includes golf. And it's interesting when you combine technology, but I also believe, also being my father's son and having grown up around the senior tour and before that the PGA Tour in the 70s, feel is a very important part of the game. And so combining those was very important to Dad and I. So the golf school is going strong, and we're focusing more attention on that. We're also still heavily involved, or I'm still heavily involved with Links to Freedom, which is the foundation that helps our wounded soldiers through golf. We use it as a very easy part of their recovery process and use it for camaraderie, as well as just getting them out of the house and communicating and having some fun while they're recovering from these injuries that they've sustained and, protecting our country. So I something, again, that I think would have been very important to my father that I'm heavily involved in. And then my funnest project is this latest project, and I'm hoping that Preston calls in so he can talk a little bit about this. But Preston's the owner of a company called Spectre Golf. And Spectre Golf is under contract with a lot of different groups, primarily Part Pro out of Canada. And they are just a state-of-the-art golf simulator company. They sell simulators from all of the big names out there, Foresight, TrackMan, etc. And Spectre Golf installs them. And so about 6 months ago, Preston from Spectre Golf and I decided to join forces and use my knowledge as a golf professional, an international PGA member, and somebody who's used technology a lot, to install golf simulator systems in country clubs and people's homes, and then give them some personal one-on-one training for themselves and for their family. And not only teaching them how to use the units, but also having some fun with them and giving them some lessons. And that has, interestingly enough, segued into a wonderful relationship with people all over the country, and some really wonderful students and some people that I'm able to help through one-on-one when I'm in their home, and also through video. And so it's been kind of an interesting journey, and I'm very, very blessed to be so heavily involved in the golf business, and to be a professional golfer is still my dream, and so it's nice to be able to combine different interests and really help people enjoy this game from their home onwards. The time saving alone, just thinking about it, from saving going to the driving range when you have a facility at your home, is huge. And I know for me, when I was playing professionally a few years ago, when I could practice at home and be around my kids, that just really made everything perfect. And so, from that sense, it's nice to give back a little bit as well,
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit because you and I talked a little bit earlier this afternoon, obviously before we're coming on live, just to sort of catch up and whatnot. And that was something that you had mentioned about why you were really excited about this venture, was the fact that you're giving folks the ability to be able to still do something that they enjoy and work on their game, but within the confines of their own home. Because as you know, Byron, there's a lot of folks out there that might have just one job, but some might even have two jobs, and time is really stringent. It's very difficult
very
to do a balancing act, and they're lucky to squeeze out a few hours once a week or once every couple of weeks to play golf, but then they don't have time to really go to the driving range, and that might be an hour. It might be a 20-minute drive there and back, or there, and then another 20 minutes back, and then they're, spending another 30. So they don't have that time. The one nice thing about, or one of the many nice things about what you're proposing here, is the fact that they can now take that practice session at home and still, feel like they're being involved with the family as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's it sounds really really basic and simple, but in today's world, time is very important. And I always use the example, Ted, that the best golf that I have played in the last 5 years was about 3.5 years ago, and I had a small little practice facility in my backyard, and it was coming home from work. Rather than having to go back to the driving range and spend all that time away from my kids, I literally could come home, throw dinner in the oven, or start something, on the stove, and grab a wedge and go out and hit 20, 30 balls, and then come in and have dinner, help with homework, get the kids ready for bed, and then go back out and hit another 100 balls. And, it really is. The way to get better is to understand what's happening when that ball comes off the face of the club. And the only way that's going to happen is by hitting so many shots that you start to understand that, both from a feel perspective as well as a mechanic perspective. And so
right, and
time saving is huge.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And that's why, when we talked about it earlier, I really like the idea. I want to just interrupt for just a second because I see that we've got somebody on the line. It's probably Preston. So let's bring Preston into the conversation, and we'll talk a little bit more about the venture between both of you, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. How are you doing, Preston?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate it. I'll let you, Byron, I'll let you do a little more formal introduction, if you wouldn't mind, and then we'll start up the conversation again.
Yeah, it's Preston Hicks is really a wonderful guy. I'm not just saying that because we're partners, and in a very real sense, he's my boss in some perspectives. But he's also taught me a lot when it comes to the installation of golf simulators. And even though I had some experience with that in the past, owning a few simulators, Preston has really opened up my mind and thought process when it comes to both the mechanics of installing the systems, as well as the creativity from a lot of unique installation jobs, but also the importance of what we do. And so in saying that, Preston Hicks, the owner and president of Spectra Golf, I thought that it'd be fun to have you on, Preston, just to talk a little bit from your perspective and why you started this company 8 years ago in the first place.
Well, yeah, and definitely like you mentioned, the golf industry is such a unique business, and but it is seasonal. So people want to be able to play in the off season. They want to be able to practice and keep up those techniques when there's a foot of snow outside. And so in Arizona, we just experienced the largest snowstorm I think I've ever been in my life. Where I live here in Kingman, we had well over a foot on the ground. And as you know,
wow,
you can't do much. We got snowed in. Every road was closed. I had a flight to go out to see some friends and family, and plans changed, so I get to swing away at my simulator for a while. But other than that, I mean, me and Corey is the owner of Parta Pro, and I work very closely with Parta Pro to do the golf simulator consultations and really find out what the customer needs as far as what's going to fit in their room, what they're looking for in the simulator. And then Byron, would come in and set everything up and provide that hands-on service. And having Byron aboard, we opened up a whole new market because being in the century, I don't know of anybody else that's doing what we're doing as far as offering the the lessons and things like that. So very unique opportunity we have, and we're definitely looking to help more people out, help them just keep using the simulator. It's not something you want to spend $10,000 to $20,000 on and use it a few times and lose interest. So this will definitely help keep that interest going, help people improve their game, especially in the off season, so they can go play real golf.
Right. Let me ask you, Preston, just and then Byron, I'll get you to add to it as well. Just for the benefit of those that are tuning in this evening to the broadcast that maybe are not familiar with some of the features that a simulator offers. Explain a little bit. I mean, obviously they understand the general concept of a golf simulator, but just maybe explain some of the features and generally what they can do. It's not just a matter of hitting a golf ball, but there's some features of it and how it works.
Sure. There's several different types of simulators out there. You have the club head reading simulators, which are generally on the lower cost spectrum. I'm talking like OptiShot and T3 Pro, which recently went out of business, and then you get up to Pro T and things like that. So these club analyzers are going to analyze your swing, feedback on the face angle, the swing path, the swing speed, impact location on the club face, and these elements will help you improve, hitting the ball straighter and further. Then you have the other simulators that are actually reading the ball directly. And those tend to be more accurate, but they're going to be limited on the club data that you're going to get unless you add in a separate club reader. So it can get pretty complicated and pretty daunting. But the ball information you're getting on those simulators is backspin, side spin, ball speed, vertical launch, horizontal launch, and you can really use that data if you know what your club's doing to help improve overall distances, carry, and accuracy. And then there's some simulators that will integrate all this information with a video of you. So you have a down-the-line video, so you can get your side view, and then a frontal view camera that's faced onto you. And you can save that information, play it back, and send it to your coach, and have it on a database so you can easily look back at it. Lots of neat features coming out. Foresight Sports, TrackMan, those are the two that come to mind that have integrated this technology in with their simulation software. And then on top of all that, just the game improvement stuff, you have the actual course play. And just about every simulator out there, and this is just a simple analyzer, is going to allow you to connect to some software and play real courses. There's some software out there that we like to use a lot that there's almost unlimited courses, a library of over 150,000 of them. And there's even features that allow you to create your own course. And so it's really becoming a huge industry that anybody can go out there, make their own course, and have thousands of people around the world playing it. Pretty neat.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool, Preston. Thank you. Yeah, Byron, I want you as a coach and teacher professional, I want you to sort of bring this full circle a little bit. Preston sort of laid out the groundwork, if you will, as to what the simulator can do. But as a coach, teaching professional, how valuable is something like this for you as a teacher in helping your students?
Well, I think that again, I fall back to what I said before about technology being an important part of the ingredients to get better, and I think feel is the other important part. Feel comes from hitting a lot of different types of shots over and over again, so that it becomes repetitious or repetition. And again, I feel that's important. But the technology side of things is incredible from the standpoint of a professional or teaching professional. I use technology in every single lesson that I teach, Ted. And I have used different systems. Without mentioning them all here, I will mention Foresight, because that's who we use at our golf schools, at the Billy Casper Golf School, and it's also a company who I do a lot of installations for. But we also work with lots of other companies. And the technology that I'm currently using at my golf school in Utah is Earnest Sports technology. And so, as Preston said, there's a lot of different types of technology out there. Really what I'm looking for is, and I want to be able to get the student to understand when they're using a simulator, is ball flight, ball spin, distance, both carry as well as rollout. And the reason those are obviously important, Ted, you being a golfer, you understand, and we've got a lot of listeners that are golfers. But to give you a very basic example and something that happened about 5 days ago, completed a system, and I was working with this gentleman, and he was hitting some 5 and 6 irons and getting an incredible amount of spin, of 8,000 plus RPMs of backspin. And as you know, with the 5 iron, that's pretty massive. And then he got his driver out, and he was getting a ton of backspin with his driver as well. And I was able to, in a very quick 45-minute session, instruct him on the importance of ball spin and the various clubs you have in your bag, meaning that with a driver, we want to take as much of that backspin off the ball as we can.
Right.
But if you're hitting a pitching wedge or a 56 degree or a 52 degree or a 60 degree, you're going to have a lot of spin with those clubs, and getting the ball to react properly off the club head. And so technology allows you to do that and show the client or the student right there and then why they're doing what they're doing. Now, when you add video to that, and the ability to slow it down and to draw lines and to show people where their head is at impact, or how much their head's moving, or whether their hips are moving too far back, or where their weight shift is at impact. You know, there's so many variables that video and slowing down video has helped with, that when you combine video plus ball flight data, you literally have all of the ingredients to cut the time it takes somebody to get better in half, from my opinion.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. You know, we've talked about technology and that in the past on this program, you and I, and of course I've talked with others about it as well. And like anything, there's a proper use of it. I mean, obviously sometimes technology, if it's not used correctly, can actually not work to the student's benefit if it's not, you know, if you're getting too technical. And that's, Preston, something I want to ask you about, you know, being more familiar with sort of the working components of these simulators. Is obviously the student wants to get that information, you know, at their fingertips, and that's obviously the purpose of having it, because it is valuable, and then they want to work with a coach or a teaching professional like Byron. But at the same time, they want to be able to have fun. And you talked about a moment ago how, you know, the student can then use this technology and actually play a round of golf at, you know, literally tens of thousands of golf courses without, you know, leaving the comfort of their own home. Talk a little bit about that, some of the fun part of having these simulators.
Sure. Well, not only are some of them portable, you could take it out on the range, you know, get your results there. But, you know, the fun part is improving your game. So that's the whole goal ultimately. But there are, you know, some software that will allow other games and things to be played like that, or playing rounds with friends. So say you have a friend that, you know, lives on the East Coast or on the West Coast, vice versa. You want to play a round of golf, and you can get online and actually play a live round of golf. And so that's a neat feature.
Isn't that incredible?
Secondly,
I mean, wow.
Yeah. You know, you play with someone around the world, you know. So the possibilities are really endless. And there's a lot of people that play on, you know, Discord and things like that. They have their own little groups, and you know, they're not little, I should say, but so they've developed their own groups. It's become a real social thing online. And Canada is where our parent company is based out of. And, you know, being up in the tundra, you know, they have a very short golf season. And so the indoor golf is huge. And so they're, you know, again, it's a big social network of guys that love the game, want to fine-tune it when they can't actually go outside and play. And, you know, you mentioned something about, you know, all the data you're getting. In my mind, the more data, you know, the better, because you're getting all aspects of the shot. But what's neat about some of these software and simulators is you can pick and choose what data you see. You can put, you know, the club data on for longer than the ball data, vice versa. And so being able to really hone down what you're looking to improve in is a neat feature as well. And again, I think it all really boils down to wanting to improve your game and taking those results that you're learning in the comfort of your own home and translating them onto the course.
Do you think, and Byron, I want to ask you this, because obviously we've both been in the golf industry for a while, and we're seeing a lot of changes in the industry and how people approach the game. Do you see, as this technology continues to develop and even get more advanced, do you see a new genre in the golf industry opening up? I mean, it's already there, but do you see it, as more and more people gravitate to this type of simulated golf, if you will? Do you see particularly the younger generation that maybe don't have access to a club membership or don't have the time, let's say, to go to the golf course for 4 to 5 hours, depending on where they're playing, but jumping on the simulator and, as you both have mentioned, playing with their buddy that lives on the other side of the country, or even some friends that they've met around the world online? Do you see this really opening up a new genre for some of the younger generation?
What I see it, I don't know if I would say a new genre as much as I see it is a wonderful gateway to the golf industry and to getting out on the golf course. I'm being somebody who's 50 years old. I very much grew up playing golf in the 70s and the 80s, where you were dropped off at a golf course and you spent 4 or 5 hours there at least. With enough change in your pocket for a hot dog and a Coke, and you just you just hit balls and went out and snuck out and played 9 holes, or got to play as part of the junior program. And the world we live in now doesn't really have a whole lot of that. And so one of the things that I think is, and the reason I say gateway is because of what I've done with my own granddaughter, and introducing her to golf through a simulator has made it very easy for me to include her in what Papa does, and also get her interest in golf. And, interestingly enough, she went out and won the under-7 group for the pitch putt and pitch chip and putt program for the National Lions Club. And and it was all because she had already started hitting shots, and she had that. Right. She did that at 4 years old. And it was because she was comfortable. And so, as we had spoken earlier, Ted, I think that it's important to realize that there's a lot of aspects to golf simulation. One is, of course, the getting better part of it. Another is the fun part of it, because of the amount of golf courses and the realism that you have. I was using a sim 2 days ago that had birds chirping and the water flowing and showing you everything you could imagine when you were playing Pebble Beach on this simulated course. And it was amazing. And so the fun aspect's there. But think about being able to introduce your kids, your grandkids, to the game of golf in the comfort of your own home, where you're dictating the fun, the level of fun, the level of noise, all of the things that, you really struggle to control sometimes with kids. And you're able to have that fun and really make it an informal, fun experience for the kids or whoever you're introducing the game of golf to. As a pro and as a teacher, I think that makes this a wonderful gateway to getting people out on the golf courses, because the chances of people wanting to go and play golf that have never even thought about playing golf before, after they've enjoyed hitting balls on a simulator, I think those odds go through the roof. And I think people will get out on the golf course if they feel like they can hit a golf ball first.
Right. Yeah, and there's a comfort level too. And Preston, I think you would agree, as well, from your own experience using the simulator, that it's very daunting if you're not somebody that was, brought up in the golf industry or, didn't get the opportunity to maybe play golf at an earlier age, to suddenly thrust yourself out in the golf course or even out in the driving range in public when you've never actually swung a club before. So, having access to a simulator gives you that ability, and again, with help from somebody like Byron, to be able to kind of work in a private setting without any other eyes sort of watching around, to get comfortable with the process before you actually get out there and step out, out on the golf course. And I'm sure you had somewhat of an experience like that earlier on as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a good icebreaker to the golf industry and wanting to actually play. Because you're right, not everybody has that comfort level, and golf in itself can be intimidating. It's a tiny little ball that you're trying to get way down the range into a smaller hole. So anyway, it helps people to get comfortable. The last thing you want to do is get out there and whiff it, right? And so making good contact and just being able to hit the ball straight, doesn't matter if it goes that far as long as it's straight. And so, yeah, it'll definitely give you that confidence for sure. So that does, obviously add to the fun and enjoyment of having a simulator. And like Byron said, you're getting the whole family involved.
Now,
I have a son. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ted.
No. Go ahead. Please finish your thought.
Oh, I have a son. He's 9 years old, and my kids are pretty inclined, and they have been for a long time. But he was just getting up there and just having a great time, and it helped me to connect with him because I'm busy. I travel a lot, and I don't have a lot of time with my family. So it's something that he enjoys, and we can spend time together doing it, and I can help him work on hitting the ball better, and he can show me a little thing or two as well. So it's great. It gets the family together for sure.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I think we could all benefit from these days. With involved in other things. This is something that is very advanced and has a lot of technology wrapped up into it that kids can get excited about. But at the same time, they can also do something that the family can get involved with, and I think that's a great idea. Well, Preston, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you jumping on the call with us. I've got a little bit more to talk about with Byron before we wrap up the evening, but I appreciate you coming on. And if you want to just take a quick moment, if there's if you have a website or something that you would like people to get directed to after the show, that they can go and maybe learn a little bit more about the simulators and that, by all means, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, Ted. I appreciate the time. And our website for the installation company is www.spectragolf.com. And the parent company, again, is par2pro.com. There's a lot of forums out there, the golfsimulatorforum.com. As well as many Facebook groups. People can go on there, and we are named sponsored everywhere. We're pretty big in the industry, and we like to help people out. So definitely give us a call.
Well, I appreciate it, and we'll read out the website and that again as we wrap up the broadcast, so that the folks can go and visit after the show and take a look. But Preston, I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to having you come back. Yeah, not a problem. Look forward to having you come back and on a future show and maybe get into a little bit more. But thank you for joining us, and I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you very much, Ed. Good night.
Thanks, Preston.
All right, good night. Very interesting, what he had to say about the technology itself, and he's obviously put it in practice for himself and his family. He's got a young son there that he can, encourage to play, and without having to, drive down the road to the local golf course, they can do it within the confines of their own home, and he can invite some friends over if he wants, type of thing, and kind of make a fun event out of it. So it's very, very interesting. Talk a little bit about the installation part.
a great way to introduce the game. You know, I mean, it really is a great way to introduce the game to somebody, whether they're young or old, that, you know, haven't ever really given golf much thought. And as we hope to grow the game of golf, I think it's important that we have the opportunity to open up, you know, I hate to use the word markets, but open up new groups of people that maybe hadn't thought much about golf, but maybe love technology. And you know, this is a possible way to do that. So as far as the installation goes, you know, it's been an interesting process. You know, the last time I did any construction work or building work was in college. And
right.
Since you all know how old I am, I don't have to tell you how long ago that was. So, you know, it's you know, I didn't think at 50 doing something like that would be even in my wheelhouse. But, you know, it's been really interesting. I love the creativity. I recently had to do a simulator back east, and the ceiling was alcoved in some interesting shapes. And so I ended up having to frame the entire ceiling and then doing a simulator from there, and building the system around that and stretching the screen out and then mounting the projector. And, you know, by the time I was done with it, it really felt like I had had the opportunity to build with my hands, that I'd had the opportunity to be creative. And then I was able to spend 2.5 hours with that particular client and work on his golf swing and show him how his system would, you know, worked. And it was just such a wonderful end of, 2.5 days. And I really think that that's one of the keys to what I've started doing, both with the installation and then with the golf lessons, is, you know, I think that video golf lessons is a natural segue for golf professionals, because the world is getting smaller, and I can sit on the phone with you, or I can FaceTime with you, or Skype with you, or video message with you and help you with anything. You know, I did that with my daughter with some of her nursing homework 2 nights ago, where I was out of town, so we FaceTimed, and I helped her with some chemistry. So, you know, we live in a world that makes that really easy to do. But I think the real kicker that sets it apart is that I have the luxury of spending 2, sometimes 3 days with the individual before we start the video lessons. And so that connection and that rapport is built in person and then is followed up with keeping on top of their game through video. And I think that that's really one of the key ingredients that's made this work so well. And as far as the fun factor, I mean, come on, it's being a golf professional that gets to install golf simulators and then teach golf on them. You know, that's, you know, I think you could say there's worse jobs out there.
Yeah, I agree. That's a pretty sweet deal. Let me ask you, and I mean, I know you can't necessarily give because every situation's different in that, but you know, obviously people that might be listening to the program think, well, you know, I can't afford a golf simulator. But you were telling me earlier that actually there's ways that you guys have put together that are very affordable. You know, obviously golf simulators, depending on you know, you can obviously be very elaborate, and then there's other systems that maybe aren't quite as much. But is there kind of a general range just so people can get an idea of what they'd be looking at, and what are some of the options as far as, you know, if they purchase it, can they finance it, that sort of thing, for a little bit bigger system?
Yeah, of course. You know, it's interesting because I have a wealth of knowledge in this particular area, because long before I partnered up with Preston and Spectre Golf, I had already unofficially helped probably a dozen or more of my students from the golf schools set up practice facilities in their homes. And these were, you know, very basic systems, you know, nets and some hitting mats and enough space and, you know, things like that. But, and so the spectrum really is whatever you can dream of. I did a system at the end of last year in somebody's home that was a racquetball court. and they decided that they were getting rid of the racquetball court, and we built a massive system in there, and that was priced, well over $40,000 for that particular system.
Sure.
And then I have a student who has become a friend, who's an ex-professional baseball player. And I have to laugh because he's already retired from baseball, and he's all of 35 years old.
Wow.
And him and I have become good friends, and I work with him and his wife. And just over the last 10 days, I've been helping him put together a practice facility in his basement, where he's putting in the most basic form of golf simulator that will read ball data and club speed data, and also will allow him to play golf with his wife and play a few golf courses. And that's done on the lower end of the scale. I think that simulator that he was able to put together with my help, all told, I think he probably spent about $2,500 on it.
Wow.
And so, that's a big margin, when you're talking about over 50 to all the way down to just a couple thousand. I do know that Preston's company has the ability to, and his partner Corey's company has the ability to do just about anything. Financing is something that they can do for different systems that are really in-depth, built-out systems. I know that I think they like to think that there's no simulator too big or too small that they can't somehow get into your home if you want one. And I've done some amazing jobs. I've put simulators, Ted, believe it or not, in as small of rooms as a 12 by 12 foot room, where, I kid you not, we took the French doors off leading to the hallway just so that you could take a golf swing. But it worked, and that was all the space that they had, and so we got it to work. And then, like I said, I've done them in with 25-foot screens, and when you see them in full color, the projector has the golf course up or the driving range up, and all of the data is coming through from whichever system they have. It's exciting. It's hard not to get excited when you're hitting a ball on a simulated golf course and you're seeing not only all of the technical data, but you're also seeing it fly through the air, land on the fairway or land on the green, and stop close to the hole.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. And my dad was the biggest anti-technical guy on the planet. I think you and I have laughed about this before, Ted.
Right.
He prided himself on not having a cell phone. And, if you wanted to get a hold of my dad, you called my mom's cell phone, or you went to the San Diego Country Club into the bar and grill, and could probably find him in one of those two locations, and playing with cards with his friends. He did not have a laptop. He did not have a cell phone. He never wanted any of that. And yet I got him to not only play golf on a simulator a few times, but also to include it in our golf academy.
Right.
And that, I think, right there shows you the importance of that level of technology. That even an old school guy like Billy Casper had to accept the fact that it has its place.
Well, I think he recognized, obviously, your father was of a different generation than you and I, and that technology really, wasn't as advanced as it's becoming now, and it's hard to visualize and understand, when somebody presents something like that to you. But obviously, as he was exposed to it, he recognized the value and the potential value that it would have down the road. So obviously that's, I'm sure, why he agreed to it. I think it's one of these things that, and I'm very excited for it. I think it's a great, business model for you to have. because you've really got the best of both worlds. You're able to really get in touch with your customers in a different way and help them install something that they can be excited about, but at the same time you can help them in different ways than maybe you traditionally have done, learn this great game. And I think you and Preston and the others involved, I think have got a sort of a winning combination, if you will. And I mean, there's, as it gets more and more popular, and the fact that it reaches a broad spectrum, as you said, you can have a very elaborate system if somebody that has the financial resources to do so, but at the same time you can still have access to that technology. And when you really put it in perspective, Byron, $2,000 or even $2,500 is not a lot when you consider that families go out and spend $300 to $500 on an Xbox or a PlayStation, and then you add the games that are $80 a piece, and you get a few, dozen or so of those. You're more than halfway there. So, it's something that even at a more entry level for a lot of families can do that, and yet it's something that everybody can play. So it's certainly not at a reach for everybody, and obviously there might be some exceptions, but you guys are obviously willing to work with them in helping them to be able to achieve that, and I think that's great, and I'm very excited for you to continue with that, and I look forward to hearing more about it.
I think that it's exciting just for golf in general, and I appreciate the time to obviously come on the show, Ted, and to talk with you. But the one thing I have to say is I'm excited. And I think I needed a little something to be excited about. Sometimes even teaching golf, is
sure.
is fun and enjoyable, but having another change. And I think that technology is exciting. I think that the world around us and the technology advances that we are currently seeing in just about every aspect of life, it's there to shave time. It's there to save time. Relationships, however, are still relationships, and I think that by combining, the importance of a relationship and sincerely wanting to help somebody and giving them the tools and the ability to do it and save time at the same, and save real time while they're doing it. I think it's great. Again, it's not rocket science. I'm certainly not a brain surgeon saving people's lives, but what I am doing is I'm hoping and trying to help people to save time and give them some fun options and the ability to get better. And I think those are some important things in today's world.
Yeah, and as you guys both said earlier, you're exposing people to the game in a different way. Which can be exciting and innovative for especially this younger generation who maybe don't have parents that belong to a club or maybe have not really been involved in golf in the past, but this is a new way that they can get exposed to the game and at the same time create a little bit a different approach to some of the family unity, if you will, and I think that's a win-win for everybody. So let's let the folks know if they want to reach out, Byron, what's the best way to do it if they want to get in touch with you to learn more about that, and obviously if they want to work with you in general, but and again maybe learn more about Spectre Golf.
Yeah, well, as always, anybody can reach out to me via email, bcgolfpro@live.com, and I think you've got that on your website.
Yep.
And I certainly ask people to please feel free to send me an email with any questions you might have. I look forward to answering each and every one, and it's important to me that I help people understand this game a little bit better. That may be taking away some of the mystery of the game and breaking it down, because I like to break the game down in very simple terms. And I'm of the belief that I don't have to make you worse before you get better. I think that I can take some baby steps that are going to get you enjoying this game a lot better. very fast. As far as the simulators go, SpectraGolf.com is the website to go to, and I'll send you some information so you can put it on the website, Ted. And then par2pro.com, that's par and then the number 2 pro, is where there's a lot of different choices and options available as far as what sort of systems you'd like. And that's where Preston or his colleagues can break down the cost and talk about your specific needs. And so really, between the three of us, I think we've got everything covered for any listeners that have any interest at all in learning more about this wonderful new technology.
Perfect. Well, Byron, as always, I appreciate you coming on the show. You're always welcome guest and a good friend. And I'm glad that you were feeling well enough to come on. I know as we both get a little bit older, our bones ache a little bit more, and colds are coming. And I know, at least I'm speaking for myself, but I appreciate you coming on as always, and I will be sure to have you on again before the season's out when it's convenient for you. But I know you're traveling here and there, so I know you got a lot on your plate. But we'll connect again, and I'll have you back on and maybe get some updates again. But as always, my friend, thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'd be remiss not to also congratulate you and Cindy and all the good work that you guys are doing, with women's golf. And so something I pay attention to, and I just want to say that you're a great guy, Ted, and I think that the golf world is very lucky to have your show and your involvement.
Well, I appreciate it, Byron, and we're excited. As I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, I told you earlier on the phone, we're kicking off, or we actually just kicked off this past Tuesday, a new season with the Symetra Tour. We're going to be featuring all of the winners this season again, beginning this next Tuesday. We're going to be featuring the first winner of the inaugural Sky Golf Championship, kicking off the 2019 Symetra Tour season. So we're very excited to have the young ladies come back on again, and it's fun. It's interesting to hear some of their input into the game and the excitement that they have, battling it out there every week with their fellow competitors, and all for that quest to make it out on the big stage with the LPGA ladies. So very, very interesting, and Cindy and I are always Cindy and I are very excited about that again, and I'm looking forward to our first winner coming next Tuesday. So, my friend, get some rest, and I hope you feel better, and keep up the great work yourself. You're a great testament to the golf industry, and I know that your father's looking down and with a lot of pride as he can be. You're a great son and a great friend and a great man, and I'm glad to call you my friend.
Well, thank you, Ted. That really sincerely that means a lot. And I just have to end on this note, and that is that my father was a great jokester, and used to always love telling jokes and really making people feel comfortable around him. And so I'll leave you with one of his favorite jokes, and that was this. My father always said, "Beware of the chronic golf cheater who got a hole-in-one on a par 3 and put 0 on the scorecard."
That was good.
All right, my friend.
I like that. All right, you have a great evening.
And I look forward to coming on again.
All right, appreciate it, Byron. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, that was my good friend, Byron Casper, professional golfer and member of the International PGA, as well as the co-founder of the Billy Casper Golf Schools. And he's doing some great work now with the guys, Preston and others at Spectra Golf. So make sure you visit SpectraGolf.com and check out some of the great information there about simulators and how to get one installed in your neck of the woods, if you will. But and don't forget to reach out to Byron as well. On that note, I want to take this opportunity to again remind you that next Tuesday I will be on the Women of Golf show on the blogtalkradio.com network, which you're listening to now. My other show, Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, with my good friend LPGA professional Cindy Miller. Of course, she won't be there next week, unfortunately. She'll be in mid-flight traveling. But I will be hosting the show on my own, but I will have a great guest coming up from the Symetra Tour, the winner of this week's Sky Golf Championship. So you want to make sure you tune into that. And that'll be 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the blogtalkradio.com network. Good night, everybody. Thanks again to the Coach's Corner panel. Excited to have them back on board. And I look forward to another great show next week here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody. Thanks for listening to this evening's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Remember to tune in each week at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. If you can't join us live, check out the on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts, or listen on any of the following social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course, Spotify. To get updates on future shows and upcoming guests, be sure to visit the show's Facebook page, Golf Talk Live Blog. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. Remember to join me live each week for another great broadcast of Golf Talk Live. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.